Hey everybody, welcome back to the garage. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please go ahead and click on subscribe and also click on the bell to receive all notifications and all activity on my channel and stay up to date. So for today we have a product review of an OBD2 scanner from a company called Launch. The model number of this scanner is 4001. Launch reached out to me and offered to supply a scanner to me for me to review, and that's what we're going to do here. They're not paying me, but they did provide the scanner for me to review. Okay, so this is a basic code scanner. Essentially it's going to allow you to read OBD2 functions, read DTC codes, clear DTC codes, turn off the engine check engine light. You can read dynamic data streams, system readiness. You can do freeze frame data, pending trouble codes, permanent trouble codes. You can read the VIN number, and then it has a couple other functionalities in it as well. So with that being said, let's go over a couple of the quick features of it, and then we'll hook it up to the car and get some live data out of it. So one thing I actually really like about it is, you know, when you get some of these basic scanners, they really give you a short cable to hook it up to the car, and depending on what you're doing, it's, you know, it really limits as far as the use of it. And with Launch, they actually supplied you with a 4-foot cable, so it actually allows you, you know, a little bit more freedom when you're actually in the car and using it. Another thing that is supplied, even though this particular one doesn't come with a case, it does come up with a plug that basically when you're not using it, you put the cover on it and it'll cover the terminal so it doesn't get dirty and damaged. Alright, so why don't we go ahead and hook it up to the car and get this thing up and running, and you can see it in action. Alright, so the reader is hooked up to the car. So the car that we have it hooked up to is a 2013 Chevy Cruze Eco with a 1.4 turbo automatic 6-speed. So I'm going to do my best to get this on camera for you. Once we leave this menu, the font does get a little bit small, so I'm going to do my best to try to get it captured as best as we can. All right, so essentially once you get it hooked up, you're going to be getting to the home screen right here. And what there are a bunch of, there's 4 buttons, up and down, left and right, which you're going to use to go through your selection. There's an enter key, and then there's a back key. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into diagnose. All right, so before we go into diagnose, there's the DTC code lookup. So we'll hit enter on that. If you knew what the actual code that you're looking for, you can put it in there and it'll give you a description of what it is. This car does not currently have any codes. If you go into tool setup, you can pick whether you want to go metric or standard, and you can do language, English or Dutch, or I assume that is Japanese or Chinese, and then that's about it. Alright, so we're going to go back and we're going to go into diagnose, and what it's going to do is it's going to talk to the car. It's going to go through all the different protocols that the software has built into it. Okay, so what we're going to do is now it's going to essentially give a generic status of the car, whether or not there's a check engine light, any stored codes, IM readiness, and essentially basic information on the car. So we're just going to hit enter to get past this. All right. So if you had a code, you could select read codes and erase codes. If we hit read codes right now, it's going to tell you we don't have a stored code. All right. IM readiness. Essentially, this is a test that when you go to get your car inspected in some states for emissions, what's going to happen is the car is going to transmit whether it's ready to be tested or not. And essentially, this is going to report back to the analyzer whether or not the computer was recently set for a check engine light and then it was brought in. Okay. All right, data stream is essentially it's going to tell you some basic information on the car, onboard monitoring, vehicle information. So vehicle information, if we go into that, it's going to tell you what the VIN number is and some other things along that line. So we're going to go back. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into data stream, right? So within data stream, it's going to give you the availability to look at components as far as what the ECU is reporting back to the reader. So not all cars are the same, not all ECUs are the same. It all depends what is being reported back. So you may get less, you may get more, because I know I also have a Jeep Liberty 2005, and the information out of that ECU is very basic, but with the Cruise it actually gives you a little bit more, so that's why we're using this versus the Jeep. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to view all items. It's going to communicate to the car. Okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to go through a couple of things that it's going to tell you. Engine coolant temperature right now is 147 degrees. There's no load because the car isn't running. If we hit down, it's going to go to the next available component. Fuel trims, pressure in the fuel rail, the absolute pressure in the intake manifold, engine RPM. Obviously the car is running because we're filming. Vehicle speed, car is not moving, but if you want to do a live test, you can actually can run this while you're driving a car. It shows you the advance for the ignition on cylinder number 1, the intake air temperature, airflow rate, absolute throttle position sensor, oxygen sensor output voltage, bank 1, sensor 1, short-term fuel trim. Go to the next one. Oxygen sensor data, bank 1, sensor 2, short-term fuel trim, OBD requirements, time since engine start, distance traveled while the engine light was on, 0 miles, because again this car doesn't have any check engine light. Fuel level in the tank, that's 42%, so it's just a little under half a tank. Number worn up since the engine light was cleared, 230. So that essentially that means this car has had 230 ignition cycles with the key on and off and to start. Distance traveled in miles. EVAP pressure, barometric pressure, the temperature of the cat. Control module voltage, the absolute load voltage, fuel air commanded equivalence ratio, relative throttle position. Ambient air temperature, basically that's the temperature of the outside the car. Absolute throttle position, pedal position, drive, and E. Not sure what those are. And command throttle actuator control. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back and we're gonna go to onboard monitoring. So this one's kind of handy. It will actually give you a little bit of diagnostic information. So we're gonna go into that. And so there's a bunch of components that it monitors, and just for the sake of conversation, we'll go into misfire count. So what this will do, actually will tell you if you have any misfires on any of the cylinders. This car is a 4-cylinder, so it's going to only show us 4. So we go into misfire cylinder number 1. It's going to tell you the min and max of the test. Obviously the min is 0, the max is 65,535. And what it'll do is if there's any counts of a misfire on any of the cylinders, it'll basically it will actually register the count and it'll tell you if it fails or not. So right now on this particular cylinder there's no misfires. So if we go down, we'll go to number 2, same thing, get back. Number 3, same thing. Go to 4, and same thing. Okay. So what this is useful for, in the event that you have a hesitation or a blinking check engine light, and a blinking check engine light is the indicator of a misfire, what you can do is you can use a code reader like this, go into it, and it'll actually tell you what cylinder is misfiring. So then you can troubleshoot whether it's a bad plug, bad coil pack, bad coil wire, spark plug wire, or however your car is set up. Okay. So essentially that is it. Right? Again, it's a very basic reader. The price point on it, I believe it's under $40. I would recommend this reader if you're just use it to do basic functionality checks and looking to read codes and clear codes and stuff along that line. If you like the product, there will be a link in the description of this video that will bring you out to the Amazon store to go ahead and take a peek at it, and if you like, go ahead and purchase it through that link. So again, I would recommend this reader, so really no issues with it. So if you like what you saw, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you like the video, again, go ahead and click on subscribe, and also click on the bell to receive any updates, notifications, or activities on this channel. As always, thanks for watching, and have a great day. See ya. Bye.